Grand arrivals. You've never seen anything like it before. Wednesday, we've got the workouts and we've got a show on the pier on Wednesday night, headlined by Mark Castro. Thursday, Chinese theatre for the media. Friday, LA Live for the weigh-in. It's going to be massive, and obviously the card is unbelievable. And I think there's so many good matchups on the card. I think it's going to be an epic night.
I'm curious, you just mentioned obviously the Wednesday night fights.
Yeah.
What was the thought process instead of adding those to the Saturday card, which you easily could have done?
Not really, because the boxing already starts at like 1:30. So in the afternoon, there's 8 fights on the card on Saturday. So the main fight, obviously on the West Coast, is around 9 p.m. So you don't really want to start the show at like 11 or something like that. And but what we wanted to do, His Excellency doesn't stop adding fights to the card because he just wants them to be as big as possible. So what we thought we'd do is do something different for activation on fight week. Obviously you've got your media workouts, which are good fun, but just something completely different. So a free show for everybody at the media workouts at Santa Monica Pier, and that was the idea behind that. So that happens Wednesday night live on the Zone, and tomorrow night the Grand Arrivals. Like you'll see something really special tomorrow. I think it'll blow your mind. Find out.
Can you clarify? Unheard of, Eddie. It's pretty cool. The free shows unheard
but
of.
I just think that like
Can't complain about it.
media workouts are great, but it's just that these guys like to do stuff that's different, and I think that's a great little a great something different for the show.
Something different. Canelo versus Berlanga. Some people are happy with it. Some people aren't. What do you think of Canelo going that route?
I think that when you look at the options available to Canelo, like appreciate David Benavidez, but he's moved to 175 and that fight's obviously not happening yet. Terence Crawford, that's not happening at the moment. So Edgar Berlanga is the mandatory challenger. He's an undefeated Puerto Rican fighter that will come to fight. He's a big puncher, and he'll come to win that fight. Like, I think he'll be a great fight, I really do. And obviously I'm delighted because I promised Edgar the shot. I did expect that we would probably do the fight, not we'd do a deal with PBC, but I'm really happy with that as well, because hopefully that's going to open the doors to more stuff together.
Yeah, Edgar was he put out a tweet where he said, forget all my haters, but overall Canelo can do what he wants. He's kind of earned that right. Do you agree with that?
But also, he's got to face his mandatories. He had 2. William Skull was 1. I think, with all due respect to William Skull, like this was the fight to take. So I think Canelo at this stage in his career wants to fight people that come to fight, wants to fight people that walk forward and fight aggressively, and that's what Edgar will do. He's not going to take a backward step. He's going to come to fight. He's full of confidence. And we love the fight. We thank them for the opportunity. I'm delighted that Edgar gets obviously the payday, but also the opportunity to become world champion. That's what we wanted him to get.
Is it the perfect time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, sooner or later, Canelo Alvarez will start to go in decline. Didn't look like it against Munguia, but I don't see any difference really between levels between Munguia and Berlanga, honestly. But that's a fight that we wanted. And I think this will be a similar fight. Hopefully he can go one better.
Eddie, I have to ask, I know you say obviously you going the PBC route to make this one happen, and I know you didn't have anything to do with Canelo and Charlo last year. But last year we saw them move it 2 weeks because the UFC had a non-pay-per-view happening on Mexican Independence Weekend. This year, they're calling it the biggest event they've ever done. Do you think that the fight maybe should have been pushed a week or two to not compete?
I think there's also value in the head-to-head. The noise, you guys are talking about it, the media are talking about it, Vegas is talking about it.
It's happened before.
Yeah, look, I do think it's 2 different audiences. There is slight crossover.
Absolutely.
But, I guess there's a little bit of politics and ego between MGM and MSG with a Sphere. I don't know. I mean, is the Mexican UFC card a big Mexican card, or is it just a big card? I don't know. There's the fascination of the Sphere. Like, it's not my show, so I don't know. Would I have done it? Who knows?
He said it's going to be a love letter to the Mexican
fans.
Fight
fans.
And people are kind of criticizing the card not being
Who's that?
Dana.
Yeah,
look, the UFC do tremendous shows. So, but I feel like the hardcore Mexican, certainly obviously boxing fans, will be at the Canelo Alvarez fight.
I think the Mexican fans would choose boxing over MMA too. I don't think MMA has.
Yeah, I don't know enough about that, but obviously, look, Canelo is a huge name. Like, it doesn't get much bigger than Canelo Alvarez in combat sport. So they obviously fancy their chances.
Yeah.
What advantage points does Berlanga have in a Canelo fight?
Young, fresh, undefeated, unscathed, unmarked. with big power. And it's not just a guy like Berlanga has good amateur pedigree. He's undefeated. He's come through those 2 fights now that on the big stage headlining. It's a big jump up. It's like the Israel Madrimov fight. We're not like we like our chances in the fights, but we also understand we're up against generational greats. But you got to roll the dice, and we got the lottery ticket. And we're going to do everything we can to try and win the fight. Back
to that main event. Who do you think is the bigger puncher, Crawford or Madrimov?
Madrimov at 154, unquestionable. We're yet to see Terence at 154, but I do not believe he carries the same power as Madrimov. I'm sure he can punch, but sooner or later, when you move from 34 to 40 to 47 to 54, you go one step too far. Hopefully, that's Saturday night.
I have to ask, obviously, you yourself, very busy this week. But good thing you have a staff. Anybody keeping an eye on, or maybe hands on deck in Paris to keep an eye out for any potential...
GB have had a disastrous start. Delicious Ori lost today as well. Pat Brown, like everybody lost in the early stages. So
you had Beatrice.
Yeah, Beatrice won today.
Which I haven't seen it, nor have I seen a highlight. But what I've seen on my timeline is suggesting that maybe... they pulled a funny one.
Really? That's not what I heard. No, I heard she won a good fight and a great performance. But,
I don't know if it was the scorecards because I heard it was like a 5-0. Like.
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah. No, I heard she won well, but I don't know what the scorecard was. Beatrice is a phenomenal talent. She's a great fighter. I'm going to try and make it out there. I know that Tank's out there and a few other guys are out there. So hopefully next week.
Usyk
Yeah. Hopefully we can get out there next week and. Hopefully there's some GB fighters left, but we'll also be looking at some other talent as well.
Speaking of Tank, looks like Lomachenko is taking the rest of the year off. That was the big fight that people were expecting. What are your thoughts on Lomachenko putting away?
Yeah, I think if the deal's not right and he's not really up for it, Lomachenko's that kind of guy that will just go, nah, leave it. So he's decided to leave it. It's going to be interesting to see what Tank does next. I guess he'll fight the winner of Pitbull against Rayo this Saturday, but we'll see.
Is that what you see?
Probably, yeah. Last one.
Many years ago, you did a show here in LA at the Forum. I don't know if you remember, but you said you would never do a LA show on a Friday night again because, traffic, things like that. I'm just curious, Eddie, I feel like you've had a long way since bringing boxing to America. What's been your biggest takeaway, biggest lesson learned doing business here in the States?
Just that every city, every state is very different. Obviously in the UK, what works in London works in Manchester, and what works in Manchester works in Liverpool. Obviously what works in Philly doesn't work in San Diego, and what works in San Diego doesn't work in Chicago. So it's just understanding different fan bases and also understanding that you have so many great fight cities or sports cities across the country that boxing's actually been starved there. If you look at San Francisco, when we took Haney Prograis there, we did 17,000. Just did 15,000 nearly for Boots against Avanesian, in Phoenix. So I think we need to start looking at these great sports cities and bring in boxing there, but also to make sure that we can build fighters in their hometown, because obviously that's when you're going to get the passion and the great support as well.
Eddie, last question. When it comes down to Gervonta Boots Ennis, he's coming on Wednesday. Are you going to be putting your foot down like always to get that fight with Terence Crawford and Boots?
Yeah, I think that if Crawford Canelo doesn't get made, then the Boots fight's got potential, but he's got to get past Madrimov first, so don't count your chickens.
That's right.